Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Triforce podcast with me, Lewis, also Pyrian Flax.
No,
and
Pyrian.
me,
I'm eating toast.
Lewis Pyrian Flax.
Sips.
Yes.
Your hottest gaming takes and news, just general guff that we've been up to this week, meandering thoughts, ill-informed takes.
Yes. Mostly by you, just for the record. Yeah.
Why are you telling them what the podcast is about? Like they don't know.
What?
You're not selling it either. People, people turn up and they're like,
what do people want nowadays?
They want exciting. They want fresh and exciting content when they turn up. They don't want predictable content. They don't want to turn up here and think these guys are just going to go off on one about getting a boner at a funeral or whatever shit they come up with next.
I have noticed other people talk faster than us. I don't know what like any cool TikTok star.
They're all Americans, mate. Americans love to gab.
They got that news anchor voice as well, though, eh?
Yeah.
Well, like it's kind of hammed up, right? We're going more for the vibe of three old men sitting in your kitchen.
Right.
Just imagine we're sitting in your kitchen and we're in the middle of a big boiler installation and we're taking a tea break.
This fucking boiler, mate. What? I wish the Bosch is so hard to get to the condenser, not to mention the dehumidifying trombone round the back.
Did you see the traffic on the way in?
Oh, God, that's some traffic. I've never seen traffic like
it. The A69 is all which
you got to take the B420.
I told you not to take the A69.
Well, the bridge was closed at Chepclup, so I had to come around that way. Chepclup does sound like a British town.
It does, yeah. Or like Smethwick.
Smethwick.
I saw a post this morning from a Canadian. It made me think of you, Sips.
And I know all of them, by the way. What was his name?
I think it was Todd.
Todd. Yeah, I went to school with Todd.
And he was in r/ like Ask UK or whatever, and he was like, so do you guys go camping in the UK? You know, can I get a caravan? You know, I'm used to camping in Canada where we have like 40-foot long caravans.
Maybe not so much in the mainland, although I'm sure this exists on the mainland. We refer to you guys as the mainland. In Jersey, there's not many forests, so like if you're Canadian and you go camping, you camp in a forest, right? Predominantly, I would say you're camping like in the woods.
I mean, it's hard not to be in a forest in Canada, right? It's a lot of
exactly.
trees. Yeah.
But my experience with camping over here is that you camp in a field. Same with a caravan. You park up in a field.
True that.
and away you go, sort of thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's camping. Well, this guy seemed to have the idea that camping was caravanning, which is not the same.
No.
We think of camping as tents, and obviously in the UK, we don't really have any wilderness left. You know, it's been permanently populated for the last 12,000 years, and as a result, every square inch of Britain is owned by someone, and they're very protective of their thing, and everything's grazing land, or, you know, it's the same. You know, anytime you want to camp up anywhere, there's a campsite with toilets, you know, a block usually, unless you actually go out properly camping, and then, you know, you have to drink, you know, tomato soup out of a can and, you know, try and dig a hole and take a shit. But I mean, even that is like very there's like 10 square meters of forest. It feels like, you know, there's not a lot of dedicated like wilderness like there is in, I'm sure, Canada. But also it's a lot fucking colder, I would imagine, in Canada. Like, most of the year.
In the winter, it's
holy shit. Like,
in the summer, it's hot as shit.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. We're going to go to Canada either next year or the year after.
Oh, nice. What part are you thinking of visiting?
Ontario, so round Ottawa and all around there. That's what
Ottawa's
family.
Decent. Ottawa is not a place that you want to stay for long, though. Like,
it's not. But we're not going to Ottawa.
No,
we're going to see family.
Ottawa, you could pretty much see all the interesting stuff in like a day or two.
Yeah.
You want like a day or two in Montreal, and then Toronto a couple of days. You got Niagara Falls and stuff.
How far is that away from Ottawa, though?
Ottawa. So if you wanted to drive from Ottawa to Toronto, it'd be about 6 hours. Ottawa to Montreal is about 2 hours. It's a little bit less on the train. Train's maybe a little bit easier, more interesting, or it's like a an hour flight or whatever.
That's like driving the entire length of the UK. Well, at least driving to the north, isn't it? It's like 6 hours is a fucking long drive.
It's a long
for
one,
Brit.
yeah. I mean, it
Would you
depends
go
on how
camping?
fast you go, right?
No,
Would you go
so
properly camping anymore?
I've got a lot of family in Canada. All my cousins and my extended family from my dad's side is all up in Canada, and they're all about my age now, and they all have kids of their own and all the rest of it. And I was thinking it'd be nice for me and the family and my sister and her fella to go over there and see all the Canadian side of things and meet their kids, and they can meet our kids. And I was thinking it'd be really nice because, you know, it's not family I see very often, but I'm sure they'd make us feel very welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it would be nice. So that's the plan. And Canada is a beautiful country, and it's like America, but without the Americans in it. You know, it's a lot more chill.
Yeah, it
no
is.
offense, America, love you, but chill.
It is a little bit more chill, Canada, for sure. It feels a bit more laid back somehow.
There's a huge American influence there, though. They still have the
massive.
I would say that America has been hugely influenced by Canada.
Oh,
that's how I put it.
That's the spin that you put on it.
Smart.
There's with the whole with the Queen passing and members of the Commonwealth, some poised to leave the Commonwealth because they were only kind of staying there because of the Queen or whatever. And there's a lot of talk about Canada potentially being one of them, although I'm not sure if it would happen. I don't really know the states that Canada's in, sort of thing. But let's say that Canada were to leave the Commonwealth and to sort of like denounce the monarchy and no longer take part or whatever.
Basically, they still have a constitutional monarchy there, which is not ideal. But again, the thing is, like, it's all in principle. The idea is that the Queen or the King might well have some say, but in reality, it's not necessarily.
The case. Yeah.
But I think that it's a very old idea. It's the same in Australia and New Zealand, I believe, as well. They're sort of saying they'd like to change to a republic, and it seems like a sensible idea. Right.
But the influence of America, especially with Canada being so close, is that without some of these things that are uniquely Canadian in that part of the world, they just become another America, right? Like there's not much differentiating. There's nothing that really sets them apart anymore if they drop all this stuff, right? And then they just become a Western country in close proximity to America with a high standard of living or whatever.
But a little bit like the Nordic countries, they're smaller in size with a more sort of less of a messy cultural divide in their population. I mean, the North and South still are very culturally different places. And I think that in Canada it's at least more. I'm sure it's such a big country. There's going to be a big divide between the East and West.
Well, there already is a little bit of a divide in Canada with French Canada and non-French Canada traditionally.
But they don't make it easy, do they?
They don't. It's true. They do not. But there you go.
I think I don't know. I don't know. You never hear any like super complaints about Canada falling apart, though, do you?
No, they had a couple of referendums like in the 90s where Quebec was wanting to separate that they never really they never got anywhere with. I mean, I guess it's a little bit like Scotland in the UK.
I think so. Yeah.
They want to, some people in Scotland want to become independent, and they
just less than half of them apparently.
They just keep pushing for it. But I think it's I think that wasn't it wasn't even close in Canada. It wasn't like just slightly less than half or anything like that. I think
so. Let's imagine, like, if you had a referendum in Quebec, you're saying that most of the people in Quebec were like, no, we do not want to leave, and they stayed.
The big population center in Quebec is Montreal's the biggest city in Quebec. Montreal is very close to the border with Ontario, so Montreal is a French Canadian city, if you like, but there's a lot of English Canadians living there, right? Because of how close it is to the rest of it's not like deepest, darkest French Canada, right? Like,
right.
It's mostly French, but the further north you go in the province of Quebec, the more French it becomes, right? And like to the point where there's some people there that just do not speak any English or will just refuse to speak it.
Was it almost like Brexit and Montreal would be London? in that London voted against Brexit.
Yeah, probably.
And a lot of the rest of the country voted for it.
I think Montreal was like the big swing. From
really
my understanding.
Close. It's like, all those polls. Why are polls like this always so close? It was 50.5% voted no. That's
wow.
They only carried it by about 30,000, actually 50,000 votes.
Holy, I didn't realize it was that close, actually. Holy shit.
Yeah. So,
but
all of these things seem to be
traditionally
really
in Canada, the federal government is represented by a French Canadian. Like it's pretty rare. Like that. I mean, a lot of the long-standing prime ministers of days gone were French Canadian, like straight up from Quebec, or at least from Montreal or whatever. Like the representation of the Western provinces is not huge and never has been, at least in my lifetime. So I don't know. It's like an essential part of it, but they want to leave or become independent for whatever reason. I don't know what that looks like after they achieve independence. Like, what the hell do they do? I mean, it's a huge province. They have a lot of lumber. They generate a lot of hydroelectricity, I guess. Which is, I mean, it's all good stuff. But like, I don't know. Like, it just seems you seem a lot stronger as a full country rather than an independent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of a question with I think with Scotland, wasn't it, that they had like the North Sea oil and gas or whatever, that they're saying, well, that would be ours.
Yeah.
And the rest of the UK was like, well, no, it won't. And that was going to be a big problem.
Yeah, because
they're like, well, it's in Scotland, so it's ours. And I think the thing is that England was like, well, no, we don't want that at all, because then we don't have any, we have to buy oil from Scotland, and then that would suck. I think that was the gist.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so it's a colonial attitude, basically.
Well, I guess we're saying, look,
you've got oil, so
we did all this when you were in the UK. If you break away, you don't get to keep it.
Yeah.
I think was their feeling. But I'm sure we'll get a couple of emails about that. How dare you claim that oil's English? Yeah. It's Scottish oil.
I don't understand like the expectation in some ways. Like anywhere else in the world, for example, if you were in the Mafia and you
just
left,
to come back to a staple of the podcast. Yeah,
you left
can't leave.
and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to keep all my whorehouses. Are you? Like it's it doesn't work like that, does it? I mean,
Tony, I got a
real
request.
world, it just doesn't.
I want to retire, and I want to take my numbers game, my racketeering, the trash. I want to take my union job.
I want all my pizza parlors.
All the hooers and the pizzas coming with me. Is that okay?
And I'm also taking all the oil rigs.
And the oil and gas. Not the fracking, though. Paulie, you can't take the fracking. Tony, the fracking's what it's all about. There's no gas reserves left in that bitch. It's about the fracking. No. You can take the whores. You can take the numbers, the racketeering. You can take the trash. All of it. The fracking stays with the family.
I mean, another thing as well, like
Tony, sorry.
You think Wales and Scotland and stuff, these places became part of the United Kingdom a long ass time ago, probably before they would have ever had any international lines drawn or anything, right? Like, I mean, I guess there must be maps that say this is all rightfully part of Scotland or whatever.
I don't know if that's the main thrust of why they want to leave. It's like they're not rubbing their hands together thinking, oh, we're going to get this oil.
But people were asking how they were going to fucking... Because I believe the argument was that Scotland is essentially a net loss in terms of what they contribute to the United Kingdom economy.
Right.
Because essentially most places that aren't London are, right? Like, because we jammed so much stuff
so it's
into
dependent
London.
on us, and so what they'll fall into massive poverty without us.
Whether that is true or not, I don't know. I'm sure that Alex Salmond and
he's gone now, isn't he?
Yeah, but he was a big proponent of
it's what's her face, Nicola Sturgeon. She's still
Nicola Sturgeon.
Well, look, I'm a big fan of the idea of independence of everyone. I think they should be able to self-govern themselves within smaller
Where does it end,
Lewis? But I know
Cornwall?
Where does it end? But also, like you said, it's a very good point. If a country is dependent or has built an infrastructure that is dependent on elements of it, will one of them prosper and the other one fall into poverty as a result of this? That is no good.
It's like
really,
a divorce. If you are a country and you're part of another country, like Wales, like Scotland, If you then say, I want a divorce...
I feel like we're so close. Like, I think if we just talk about this for like 5 more minutes, we can really crack it, We can solve it. Just 5 more minutes. We're so close, guys. Holy shit, we're going to solve the problem. Yeah. Oh, man.
Tell them.
I believe. Yeah.
Hello, Nicola. Yeah, it's Pyrian Flax from the Triforce podcast. Look, me and the lads have been cooking something up here. We've got an idea, and we're just going to pitch it to you. It's about the independence referendum. Oh, go right ahead, laddie. I've got nothing else on to do today, because Scotland's just a barren wasteland with nought in it, apart from the oil reserves, which you'll no get over my dead body. All right, Nicola, well, the point is, we think we've figured it out. A referendum would be a lot like a divorce. Maybe don't do it. Look, well, a good point, well made. We'll call it a day.
Problem solved.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Oh,
There's been a story this week. I don't know if you heard. Rithian told me this about chess grandmaster who played against Magnus Carlsen.
This is one of my favorites.
I haven't. I heard whispers of this, but I'm not familiar with any of the details.
So what happened was, this is a guy who's 19 years old.
Niemann.
As far as I know, I haven't really looked into it too much, but this is what I understand. He played a chess game against Magnus Carlsen.
Right.
He's been accused of cheating before.
He has cheated. He admitted that he cheated in the past. Yeah,
and he's cheated before. But so he beat Magnus Carlsen. But I think Carlsen did what basically Carlsen did a thing where he basically had to do at least one move, and so he just did that one move and then left.
Which is a
just
tournament
got
that
up
he
and
owns.
walked away.
Yeah. So he played one move.
What,
and
he
then
was just like,
again.
I'm done my move. I know that this is like the big clincher. There's no coming back from this one.
No.
I'm going to get a sandwich.
No. As in, the game started. Niemann moved queen's pawn forward 2 squares. Magnus moved his knight one move and then resigned the game.
Yeah, and so basically, I think again he's only 19, and obviously he was accused of cheating. He admitted to cheating when he was 12.
Yeah.
On chess.com, not in a live game, not anything like this. But now he's obviously, an established chess player, but people don't know how he's cheating. They assume he is, and they assume he is because Magnus did an opening that he never ever does against him. Well, someone did an opening that he never ever does, and he responded like not immediately, but like perfectly to that, even though it's something that Magnus has never, like a style that Magnus has never played before, right? So Magnus was like almost doing a test on him, because if he'd prepped, which a lot of chess grandmasters do, is they prep against their opponent and they know what their opponent's likely to play. And the first series of moves in the tournament are always very established because both players know what styles they want to play and what they think they can beat the other with.
Also, there is a hard limit on the openings. Like, that's why they like I watch a lot of chess channels. There's a guy called a Gadmentor who does these reviews.
Yes,
he's very good. He's the guy who says, and then captures, bishop moves to rook 4, and then basically we have a brand new game. So the point is that chess is like a huge tree, and the opening 10 moves have all been done across a shitload of other games, but then someone will make a move that essentially generates at that point a new game of chess that has never been seen before from that point on. So it's like this exact combination of moves this is the first time that we believe this has happened, sort of thing.
So anyway, the reason this is news is because someone on Reddit or someone somewhere said, I know how he's cheating. He's putting vibrating anal beads up his ass.
Yeah.
Right. And this is apparently the news story. Everyone has now accused, the public has now accused this guy of putting anal beads in his ass and cheating using vibration signals or whatever, right? Now, of course, there's no evidence for this. It's just basically slandering this poor guy, and it's now popular. The internet is now just assumes this is the truth, okay? To the point where there's like webcam sites sending him, offering him like $1 million to play nude and stuff like this, right? It's basically embarrassing this guy into the ground with no evidence. Now, obviously, we think he's cheating, but again, no evidence. And like it's mental, okay? But I mean, the thing is, chess obviously these days computers are just better.
Yeah.
So you could very easily cheat, right? You could just be told what you are. People, it's just a fact. So it's not that it's not that it's impossible to cheat. It's just that in fact, it's easy, but it's harder to do it in real life without signals from someone.
I need a computer to beat that guy. Just let me at him. 1v1. I'll take you on. Let me just put my vibrating anal beads
1v1, that would be a change for chess. Normally it's
1v1 me.
Part of me is like seeing all this news happen and be like, oh, isn't this a funny story? But part of me is like, why is the internet just bullying this guy? And maybe he deserves it because maybe he is cheating. But I feel like
isn't he like a top chess player?
Yeah, but
I assume he's playing Magnus Carlsen, so he must be decent.
He is grandmaster, but the problem is Magnus is so good that no one can beat him.
Right.
Essentially, he's just the greatest, probably of all time. He's unbelievably good at chess, right?
Right.
He plays it fast, he plays it slow, he can do it all. He's insane. Yes, of course, he loses games from time to time, but he is a ridiculously good, a godlike chess player.
Right.
And this guy, although he's very, very good, I think the argument is it's a bit like someone who is a weightlifter suddenly lifting 100 kilograms more than the guy who is the world record holder. It's like that, where you think, yes, this other guy is extremely strong, but where did he suddenly get this extra 100 kilos lift from? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think the argument is for him to beat Magnus Carlsen. For a start, to a lot of people that's unheard of. But what did not help the situation, and really didn't help this guy, in my opinion, and I'm a big Magnus Carlsen fan, and I'm sure I will get some hate for this from some chess fans, but I think he's handled it very poorly in two ways. First of all, he came out after the tournament and he tweeted, when he'd been beaten by this guy Niemann, he tweeted the Mourinho post-match interview where Mourinho said, if I say anything, I'll be in big trouble, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. That was his post-match interview. Magnus Carlsen tweeted that. And everyone was like, what's wrong with Magnus? What's going on here? And of course it then comes out that everybody thinks Niemann was cheating. For him to, at the next tournament when he plays Niemann, the game where he conceded, Magnus Carlsen owns that organization that was running that chess tournament. So for him to do this is like setting up this, it's like inviting someone over to play Monopoly, and then the moment they roll the dice, you just flip the board and storm off. It's like, if you want to say something, come out and state it. Don't be a baby. It's childish the way he's acting. In my opinion, it's unbecoming of the great chess master that he is.
I think it's pretty disgusting that we have just jumped to the idea that this guy's using anal beads and everyone's reporting it as normal. This guy's, he's 19, right?
Who hasn't, when they were 19, shoved a vibrating anal beat up their arse? That's all I'm saying.
I've got one up there right now.
To beat a chess tournament.
I'm not, I know I'm not 19, but I'm enjoying myself here. This is awesome. I love this.
Those beads are telling Sips what to say on the Triforce podcast. That's what's happening.
I'm just, I don't know. For some reason, that really annoyed me. I just didn't want to dive in. I'm sure a lot of creators and other content creators are loving this and doubling down.
Oh, it's made a ton of hits.
Just feels like bullying to me, man. I'm just not cool with it.
Anyway. So when's your video expected to come out? Is it dropping today? Are you dropping your big reaction video today?
I think it's partly because we've just suspended our fucking cruelty in the face of the Queen's funeral, right? No one loves the royal family, but everyone's been quite respectful. Every fucker on the whole planet, Pringles and the fucking Emoji Movie, like the British porn channels paused all of their fucking content. You know, everyone's been fucking bending over backwards to put a black border around everything for the sake of the Queen for the last 2 weeks.
The Pringles...
I'm kind of sick of it.
Pringles printed cans where the little guy's mustache is upside down like he's sad.
Really?
No, they didn't. But that would have been fucking
Holy shit, brand. Man, you got me there. I was like, really? They did that?
No, that would have been
like,
fucking
that would have been hilarious. Holy shit.
I'm not... Look, you know, as I just think that there's some... people seem to have this very selective idea of when to be respectful, and only if it fucking benefits them. You know, they're respectful when it benefits them, and they're disrespectful when it benefits them. Like, people love to jump on a bandwagon, whether it's a good, sad bandwagon or a fucking abuse bandwagon. It's fucking awful.
I think you know, companies and
people should look at themselves
are very scared to do anything that isn't as a group. And I mean, you could say traditionally that's been the case. But the problem is, if you come out and say something that people generally disagree with, or you don't toe the line, if you're a company in particular, if you don't toe the line that all the other companies and everything, they're all doing it, this is cancelled, that's cancelled, we're going to, out of a sign of respect, like they're all copying each other's language because no one wants to march out of step. Everybody wants to just be homogenous so that you can't discern one company's behavior from another. That way, it's
the worst
safety
thing about
in numbers. If everybody else is doing it, we better do it too. That's it.
I think the worst thing is when these companies are doing something that they can try and fucking spin to be respectful to the Queen, or when it's clearly not, like making a pop figure for the Queen in her casket or some shit. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, "This is in memory of Queen Elizabeth." It's like, not really. You're just clearly cashing in a really scummy way, but you've spun it into a way that is like,
what? There's little bobblehead things. A bobblehead Queen.
Whatever the
fuck.
fuck.
I've got one in my kitchen. It's like a solar powered one
Of the Queen?
Yeah. My kids bought it one time in town, I think, and it's on my ledge in my kitchen. Like I see it every day. It's hilarious. It makes me smile.
Very respectful, I think. Very respectful.
Yeah, I like the Queen.
Sure, whatever. I'm just saying that like so many people aren't sure. It's like aren't sure what they're doing to the point where it's like borderline offensive. And this is the way YouTube and Twitch and all these things always work, right? If you're pushing something right to that borderline of acceptance, it's going to get so much more interest. And this is why we see big successes among, and it's frustrating, but we just revisit this over and over again, right? With like Twitch's policy on banning people or YouTube's policy on banning people, and those people that get banned come back with twice as many views a week later, and it's kind of it's always going to be the case, right? You can't have everything going, but there's always going to be a line, and who polices that line? It has to be one guy. There's this lot of fuss on YouTube where some creators are playing these games like the Mortuary Assistant, and some of them are being, adult flagged and others aren't, and it's like, well, it's like, where are the standards and like who's policing this, and it's also like so close to the line of like, there's like this scene in the Mortuary Assistant in the game at the end where there's like a hanging, right? And obviously all the big YouTubers have played it fine, they're all non-age restricted, nothing like this, not even no one's blinked an eye at it at all, whereas obviously Logan Paul going to the hanging, and that everyone on the internet has this terrible outcry, and he gets demonized and whatever, and I'm not saying I'm on his side or not. I'm not saying I'm on the YouTuber side or not, but like, this is a tricky thing, right? Like, kids are watching these YouTubers and experiencing these pretty awful things.
But
I guess
wasn't the thing with him that he
context
went to
related to?
But he went to that forest.
Absolutely,
in Japan,
it's context related to.
Yeah.
I mean, his blasé attitude to it, like, "Lol, look at that guy," is very different to someone playing the game and condemning it as they go through it, or talking about it in a rational way. But I'm sure these things are very hard to police, right? There's the hard and fast rules don't work. It's based on some human having to look at it, right?
Yeah.
And say, well, this is probably not okay, I feel like these games do have age restrictions on them anyway, but then again, you could be doing like some RP in GTA, which is totally fine. They're not shooting anyone or doing any strippers. Does that get age restricted just because it's in a GTA, which is an 18 game?
It's a tough one.
Or Minecraft, if you're doing some weird sex fucking Spider-Man Elsa roleplay shit in Minecraft, does that not get age restricted because it's in Minecraft?
I feel judged.
Where are the rules?
All right, I got a question for you guys, because we're talking
Sorry.
about no. We're talking about
one.
chess. We're talking about games.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that's been happening on Twitch this week is about gambling streams.
Yeah.
And this has been controversial. I came out. I did have a hot take about it that some people agree with and some people didn't. And
listen, the gambling industry, they refer to what they do as gaming.
They do.
Consider you guys come to our casinos and play games. It's gaming.
Gaming table. It is a gaming table.
They've always said that it's gaming, and I think that has allowed them to infiltrate a little bit into
right. But
sorry,
so here's my problem is, and I want to first of all set the scene. I am not someone who is massively pro gambling. I think there's no harm in people having a flutter now and then, and even putting a few quid in a slot machine if they want, or if you're at a casino, dropping 20 or 30 quid on a blackjack if you want to have a bit of fun. It is fun, I get it. You get to feel like James Bond or whatever. The problem is a lot of people obviously take it too far. A lot of people have a serious problem, and these gambling companies come up with all kinds of inventive ways of getting money out of people who very often can't afford to lose this money.
Now, here's the thing that's the difficulty, right? Because I went through this when I was at uni, the difference is that when you're in a brick and mortar casino and you're dealing with real people and you're, actually having to put money down, or you're doing something like in a bookies where you have to wait, you bet on a horse race and then you have to wait and watch it happen.
Yeah.
That's very different to
There's
an online casino where your bank account is connected to the account. You can get tilted and angry or drunk or frustrated or depressed, and you can put in far too much money very, very easily.
Yeah.
And you really lose it all very quickly. That's what's happened. That's what the revolution has been in gambling, and that is incredibly addictive. And like you said, like it hooks you in. In a way that the classic gambling forms have put little physical barriers on. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, carry on.
So my only concern was that if we ban gambling streams, what would that mean for poker? And my argument was, and unfortunately this is not backed up by British law, there was a case, for anyone that remembers the Gutshot card room in London from about 20 years ago, I think it ran for a good 5 or 6 years, during the poker boom. It's over in Clerkenwell, I think. You could go there, I played there, you could play in tournaments, there were cash games. They had a court case where the British courts found that poker is gambling. That was their opinion.
Yeah, but that's tournament, though. This is a closed tournament. This isn't like...
but people do also play cash games.
Yeah, sure. But if you're broadcasting a closed tournament for cash, but it happens to be poker, that I wouldn't say that that's actually gambling, is it? Like that's.
Well, I mean, you're essentially staking money based on how you think you're going to do, and you stand to win more or lose your stake.
Yeah, I guess.
It's kind of. So the issue is that how do you define gambling? And some people have said, oh, should we ban loot boxes as well? And other people are like, well, yes, we would love that because we think loot boxes are gambling. And that's been a big thing in the EU and the arguments about that.
There's some countries in the EU that have
literally banned them, exactly.
People love buying loot boxes because they think they might get money.
They might
from
win
it.
something.
That's
exactly.
That's a big like, man, I could get a Pokemon card that's worth, it's like even opening Pokemon boxes is kind of gambling. Like that's how they work, right? I think poker, like you said, is two pronged, right? It's got the cash games, which you can lose a lot of money very quickly.
You could,
and it's got the tournament where you put your stake in, and you'll usually be sat there for an hour after putting $10 in. And I don't mind that as much, right? I think that is a slower drain of money.
Yeah,
I think you can't lose. Almost like if you put a tournament in, you've invested a certain amount that you're investing immediately, and you're getting X amount of gameplay back. And sure, it's gambling. It is gambling, but it's not as potentially poisonous as re-upping yourself at a cash game for another 200 quid.
I agree, but here's my point: is I don't think personally, and I know people will disagree with me, I don't think that poker is gambling in anything like the same way that most other things are. And here's why I think it's an exception. I'm not saying it's an exception just because I fucking love poker, right? I'm being honest with you. I don't think that it's gambling in anything like the same way. For example, you can be a professional poker player for your whole life, and you can make money doing so because you are better than the other players that you're playing against. Now, if you are a horse racing expert, I know people who are horse racing experts. And they have good years and they have bad years. And maybe they finish up. But the point is, the more likely something is to happen, the shorter the odds. In poker, I can make my own odds, for example, by outplaying my opponent. I can win a pot that I have no right to win by bluffing, which is the big element of skill in poker. But so is reading people's ranges, noticing their habits. If it's live poker, picking up on tells, things like that. There are elements of skill that, for me, don't exist in any other game that you could play in a casino or at a bookmaker's.
Okay, well,
you can influence the result in a way that you can't in anything else.
Would you agree that Magic the Gathering also has elements of bluffing and
this was a big question.
Opponent?
This was a big question that people asked is, well, then would Magic the Gathering count as gambling? Because some of the tournaments in Magic the Gathering have a cash payout, and you might even have to pay a fee to play. I don't know, but even if you don't, essentially, you're playing a game with a deck of cards, hoping to draw certain things and hoping to have a better run of things than your opponent.
And in a sense, you're having to buy the cards in the first place to take play.
So you're gambling that you're going to get the card.
But you are also investing your time in learning the game and practicing the game. That costs you money, effectively. So, is that gambling? I think, honestly, elements of gambling exist in all of our lives. You know, you take risks when you take your university course on, or you open a new business. But
right? there are
elements.
There's
of
taking
risk
a chance and a risk, and then there's everywhere. What we would define as gambling. And I think that the issue is poker gambling, given that it is, in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion, a game of skill. Because I could sit and play slot machines all day.
Yeah.
And there's no skill to slot machines. You just pull the lever and you hope you win. Now, the argument against it is there are some professional slot machine players who look for progressive jackpots, time it just right. But again, you're hoping that other people have dumped money in that they haven't collected and they've lost it, and you then turn up and reap the benefits. That's not really the same as poker. Poker, you're sitting down with your hand, you're playing against other top players, and you're trying to outplay them and be better than them. And a consistent number of players who are very, very good rise to the top of a lot of tournaments every year, and they win in cash games and they make money. If that wasn't possible, that would be gambling. I feel like the fact that they can do that year after year means it is a game of skill. And if it's a game of skill, even if it involves gambling, I think it deserves a special category. But that's just my opinion.
I think where's the line, though, between the game of skill and the game of chance, right? Like,
because you can play
how
perfectly.
Little skill do you need to make it, not gambling?
So you can play perfectly in poker.
Pinball's fairly skill-based game.
Yeah, but there's elements of luck. There's elements of luck in pinball because sometimes the ball just goes right down the middle.
Is Snap gambling?
If you play it for money, is it gambling? I think that's the question. Is anything played for money?
It's a pretty
gambling?
Shit game, Snap.
It's pretty bad.
With not much skill.
I prefer
Go
reactions. Fish. Prefer Go Fish.
Go Fish.
So, yeah.
What about like Snakes and Ladders?
That is
I'm trying to think of like a really shit board game.
Monopoly.
That's pure chance.
So
Cluedo.
Monopoly.
Well, there's skill in Monopoly, isn't there? But yeah.
Maybe it's if it's got a world championships of it, then it's not gambling, right? Like, because there's you could imagine a world championships of Scrabble and Monopoly, right? And Catan and poker, but you couldn't imagine a world championships of roulette.
I think if you could consistently divine who is the best at something by having a competition, then there would have to be a skill gap, and therefore it would have to be a game of skill, not just chance.
I think we've solved it.
Yep.
We've done it again.
It's closed.
We've done it again.
Oh, we're just fucking
we're solving. We're problem solvers.
Bring us the next one.
Holy shit!
Yeah, mail us your problems right now. We're gonna solve them.
We're on a roll. I reckon we could get loads more done in this podcast.
Oh my god! Yeah,
lads, I do have a problem that I can only solve in one way. I need the toilet.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
well, go.
Okay.
Carry on.
Go. Let loose.
You guys carry on. Now, I'll tell you what. Come up with a problem for me, and I'll solve it.
If there was a problem, Flax will solve it. Lewis, can I ask you what video games you've been playing recently? I'm curious to know.
There is a new Monkey Island. I just got sent. It's called Return to Monkey Island. It's published by Devolver.
Yep. I was playing it yesterday. It's good.
It's okay. Yeah. I love Monkey Island. It makes me want to go back and play the old ones.
Yes.
I got sent a game that I haven't played yet called Isonzo World War II Italian Front.
Oh, that looks good. Actually, the graphics look stunning in that one. I haven't
played yet. They've made loads of them. These guys. Yeah. But actually, what I've mostly been doing this last week is reaching out for Jingle Jam.
Oh.
I've reached out to about 1,000 people.
Wow.
And I've had
zero replies.
I've had about, I'd say about
nobody wants to know.
50 replies.
Everyone is jammed out.
I've had every conceivable reply as well. Like, oh, can we talk on the phone? Oh, that's way too many copies to give away. Or like, we don't support charity. I've had like
people actually just say straight up that they don't support charity.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them want to do their fair enough. Like, any reason that anyone replies is fair enough, right? Because I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know if they have like a prior relationship. Like, we've never had a Games Workshop game in the bundle, in the collection, Games Collection. Sorry, anytime, and it's because Games Workshop have licensing agreements, and it makes it difficult, right? So there's obviously some issue there that I can never overcome, that I don't know, and I don't want to don't rock the boat, right? And other people like to run their own charity initiatives and they don't have time or whatever, or they've got some other prior promotion going on, or they don't own their game anymore. God knows, like, it's all you never know what's going on with people, so I'm never like judgmental about it. But I guess I hate it more when people don't reply, because that's like, did they just not get my email? I usually pester them though.
Yeah, you gotta pester. Sometimes, like, I know if you're anything like me, you don't respond to things like ever or straight away, you know, unless you're pestered.
No.
If somebody pesters me, there's a good chance I'll probably respond to them. But if somebody just sends me one email and expects a reply, I'm lazy. I never get around to it, you know? Like, it's not like
I'm exactly the same. I wish I was better, but I've got a news article here about floppy disks. Right. Apparently all the floppy disks are about to sort of start losing their magnetic whatever's stored on them. They're starting to go.
Right.
Yeah, and people are obviously stopped making more, and it's starting to become like an ancient technology, right?
Right. So what do I do with my collection of floppy disks then? How do I keep them safe?
Well, I don't know. Like you might have to like start putting them onto other stuff. I don't know.
I don't want to. I want to keep them. I have an old computer that I've kept around just so that I can access my vast library of floppy disks. Like, what about the ones that have like the metal protector thing like, are those ones okay?
Okay, what's the problem?
Maybe they're okay.
Floppy disks are losing their
floppy
magnet.
Disks losing their charge, or are they all right?
They do.
They're losing their juice.
They do lose it. They do lose it over time. Yeah, why?
Well, because like so many people still use floppy disks for like the flipping Air Force and fucking.
They will lose it over time. I believe the material on the disk will degrade, which is why they use magnetic tape for very long-term storage. A lot of big banks and big organizations still use magnetic tape because it lasts a long time and it doesn't fail. So you just have to hope it's all backed up.
Maybe that's you solved another one.
Well, you say I've solved it. I'm certain I'm wrong, because the problem with this podcast...
Yeah, but you sound like you're right, so that's good enough for me.
Yeah, because I think I am right, but the problem is I'm so frequently corrected that I've got fact-based... I've got factual dysfunction. Right. It's like erectile dysfunction, but for facts. So you say something and you doubt yourself because someone go, well, actually, so you just don't know. So I'm almost certainly wrong, but carry on.
But who's out there fact-checking the well-actuallys, though? That's the thing.
Well,
you know?
When they do,
just because somebody says, well, actually, it doesn't mean that they're right, you know? Like,
I know, and my favorite kind of well, actually, is when a well, actually is well, actually. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, you can't hope for more, really.
Yeah.
Man.
I think I read recently that Japan had this new minister who had like never used. He was like the head of like digital business or whatever. The Japanese minister.
I have never used a computer, and I am proud of it.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Oh my god, I was joking.
He actually said that, and it was one of these moments where it was like he said, you know, if I ever need anything doing, I asked one of my many assistants to do it. I just, you know, I'm too important to have to use a computer.
Sounds like the man for the job, to be honest.
But no, I think he's trying to like modernize, because even now, like talking to Nintendo, we have to fax them things, and it's like, the fuck? What year is this? You know, and floppy disks are still very prevalent there, but obviously there's only one company still making the fucking things. Apparently.
Jesus. I don't even have a fax. So, if a company turned to me and said, fax it, I would just say, why don't you fax off? I'm not dealing with you ever again.
Yeah, that'd show him. That'd fucking show him.
That's the one I'm going with. Why don't you
why don't you
go fax yourself?
Go fax yourself.
Yeah.
Fax off. For Mrs. F's bonus one year at one of the companies she was working at, they didn't have any money to give away as a bonus, so they treated us to a meal at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant in Chelsea. And this was like...
Did it not cost any money?
Huge deal. No. They no, they just... we had to do the washing up.
That's such a good point.
We had to do the washing up. I mean, basically, they couldn't afford like a full bonus. So her boss said, look, just go to the restaurant and I'll pay for it. That was
he laid on a meal.
Okay.
He laid on this meal for you. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, you're right. It did cost money, but it was like off the books, if you like. It was like the boss treated us rather than an official bonus from the company.
Fair enough.
Sure.
Anyway, to make a reservation, you had to put down a deposit and you had to fax them. And I thought, why would you fucking have to fax it? Who has a fax machine? I realize it's to keep the riffraff out, isn't it? Because if you live hand to mouth, relatively poor, and you're going to nip in, shove Gordon Ramsay's food down your face, and then run out, you ain't got access to a fax machine. If you're someone who's like got an office job or an office or, you know, is a lawyer or whatever, or a doctor, you've got a fucking fax machine knocking
Man,
about.
he should Kitchen Nightmares his own fucking restaurant and bring up the point about the fax machine, you know, because that wouldn't fly. If he went to like Jimmy and Jane's pizzeria in New Jersey or whatever, and they were taking bookings by fax machine, he would go into conniptions live on TV.
He would give them the fax.
But then in the meantime, he's fucking doing it himself at Ramsay's restaurant Chelsea.
It worked though because it was packed and it was a really good meal.
So it must have been weird to think you're sitting in a restaurant and every one of those people had a fax machine or access to a fax machine. What year was this in?
This would have been like 2005 or something.
I mean, there's still fax machines kicking around in 2005. To be fair, right?
It's almost like making it a little challenge, you know, for people to sort of. Maybe that's why Nintendo still do it. It's almost like just like you said to keep the riffraff out. You know, only people of a certain size or
only true OGs,
only people who are really willing to make an effort actually get into contact with them, and they're the sort of people you want to work with because it sort of stops all the spam emails. Like a lot of the time, I'm reaching out for Jingle Jam, right, and a lot of people just have their contact information posted, you know, publicly. And then obviously it gets spammed to death and they never reply to it. But if they've got it, like a lot of people have it hidden somehow, like either through like a capture or you have to fill out like a web form, or they've got it like contact in brackets AT close brackets. So then I have to type the fucking thing out.
Right.
You know, there's like every different one that you've ever experienced. And some people, even like big studios, don't have a public way for you to contact them at all, and I have to like go through some weird backdoor. I have to join their Discord. I have to send a message to a mod saying, "Oh, have you got a way I can contact the guy?" You know, I have to like do all this like detective work for some stupid, you know, £3 platform game. You know that he won't even put in the collection anyway. It's such a lot of like a hassle.
Yeah, I think that's the big turnoff for me is any hassle. You know, like. Yeah, even like sometimes like with a sponsorship or whatever, if they're really like particular about something or specific, I'm just like, oh, why did I even say yes to this? You know, like if you want to sponsor me for something, let me stream it for like 2 hours when I would normally stream or whatever, and just let me do it my way and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to be micromanaged. Or do things like at some crazy hour to fit in with demographics and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's all the extras, and I'm just like, oh, geez, I don't even want to do it now. Just leave me alone. You know, like I know it's money, but like at the same time, like it's just a lot of hassle.
I did some work during the year. You know what? I want to ask a question for any company owners or anything out there listening to this, which will be about 3 people. If you
invoice
at
least 2.
Right.
Already.
Well, all right. If you invoice someone and you're a company, especially the bigger the company, how quickly would you expect to be paid?
Fairly quickly.
Within 30 days of receipt is generally it.
Yeah.
Right? So how come I'll do work for an organization, even some fairly big ones, and it's like 3 or 4 months before I get paid?
One time, Sony Ericsson didn't pay me for 2 years for a thing I did at Minecon 2011.
I don't get it, man.
Yeah.
I don't get it. They've got the fucking money. Pay.
I think the bigger they are, the longer it takes.
I don't know if they do have the money, though. I think sometimes it's a chain of money, right? So that it has to come in. But it still shouldn't take that long, I don't think. Like it should. Some people you work with have. I don't know how much I could talk about this because of NDAs, but I can insinuate. So
you didn't sign a non-insinuation agreement.
Yeah, there's a popular show going on. Is it? Oh God, I should be careful. Anyway, imagine you were doing a brand deal where you were promoting a universe, but you couldn't promote other universes, right?
Right.
So imagine you were playing, like, let's say, The Witcher or whatever, and you couldn't talk about any other properties. You couldn't talk about Doctor Who or Game of Thrones or anything. Like they were like, but which is kind of weird to me, right? Because that's almost never a stipulation. Mostly they're like, oh, just have fun, showing off our thing, play our thing, do our thing. Maybe maybe shout it out and be nice about it, and don't talk shit about it. You know, that's like the thing they're most concerned about is that. But some people have had the most ludicrously long requirements. So, say for example, I was playing The Witcher, right? Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And but this is not the case. This is just an example. And they said you can't talk anything about The Witcher 2. You can't talk about Geralt. You can't talk about Ciri.
Yeah.
You can't talk about,
you can't compare or anything.
Yeah. You can't say anything about anything that happened in the new Witcher. Even though this one has Geralt in, you can't say that, you can't talk about things that Geralt did before. You can't, you shouldn't really, mention him because, he's so by a different company, and it's so restrictive. Oh my God.
Yeah, but the more restrictive it is, I feel like you end up being like, you ever see Keeping Up Appearances? Hyacinth's neighbor, Elizabeth? You know how she's just like on the fucking edge all the time because Hyacinth is just so overbearing and particular about everything. She's nervous. She's like dropping her tea and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You become that, right?
I'm pretty sure that you are the only person on this podcast that has really watched that show, because you even know the names of the characters.
I'm telling you, I'm
have no
not a
idea,
word of a
dude.
lie. Keeping Up Appearances, I think, is like is like the British Golden Girls. It's so fucking well written. It's unbelievably good.
It's classic.
It is so
I don't know
good.
where to even watch it. I never see it on TV or on any
You
of
can
the...
watch it on iPlayer. They have all of the seasons on
I'll go and watch
iPlayer.
some. I'll go and watch some.
Send me what you think is the best episode. When I watch it, I'm thinking to myself, who wrote this and what experiences did they have that led them to write this? Because the writing for Hyacinth in particular is incredible. Like, it's just because she's a middle class like aspiring posh person, like she thinks she's like as posh as the queen, but she lives in the suburbs, right? With her husband who works at like a fucking stapler factory as like middle management or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it was written by a guy called Roy Clark.
It is really good.
It's the most British name I've ever heard as well.
He did Last of the Summer Wine for 40 years.
Holy shit.
I mean, there's some classic sitcoms though too. Like
he did Open All Hours as well. So these are all shows that were banned in my house.
Right.
Open All Hours was banned. Last of the Summer Wine was banned.
You watched Dad's Army though, so me and Piran did this bolt action thing about Dad's Army, and
don't say
you
what do you mean? No, it's okay.
it.
It's coming out. It's
when's it coming out?
Don't know, probably months.
Right.
But afterwards I realised we didn't really talk about Dad's Army and actually talk about who they are, and because I realised afterwards that not everyone's gonna ever fucking heard of this show. We just sort of went into it assuming that everyone knew as much as we did, and I'm a bit concerned now that people aren't gonna get it.
What?
But I might have to do some
Dad's
extra
Army
bits. Yeah, have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, do you know any of the characters?
I don't know any of the characters. No.
Yeah,
God damn, we didn't. We missed.
We should have.
It's kind of like it's like my parents would have watched that, right? Like on TV.
It is old.
It's old.
It
really
is
is
old.
old.
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah, I think I just used to watch it with my parents on TV in the evenings, like occasionally.
I don't know if you're gonna like Keeping Up
experience.
Appearances, Flax, but it is.
I'll give it a go.
It holds up.
It
hold
is humorous at times for sure. Like it's. Some episodes are better than others as well, but like there's one episode where they go on a cruise ship and Hyacinth's brother-in-law, this guy, he's a Scouser called Onslow, and he's just got like, he's fat, he's got the wife beater, he looks like he works like at a car mechanics or whatever, and she doesn't like him. She thinks he's too common, right? And so they go on this cruise ship, and she's making this big deal about how she's gonna have dinner with the captain. They're gonna sit in like the VIP section and have dinner with the captain or whatever. And then they turn up, and Onslow's there having dinner with the captain because he won he won like a lottery, which was like a trip on this cruise ship. So she's just fucking mortified the entire time, like that he has just like, jumped the queue or whatever to like, do all these posh things that he doesn't appreciate because he's just like, he's got like a can of beer and he's belching and stuff. And like all these other people are like, like royal admirals and stuff like that.
It was going out in the UK when Seinfeld was going out in America.
Yeah,
so
it's like early
kind of
90s,
made around that
right,
same generation time. Except it's obviously the British Mirror, which is instead of rich New York apartments in the middle of the city living, and written by a comedian, it's a long-suffering British sitcom in a very British situation.
Yeah.
I
like it a lot.
Well, here's homework for the viewers.
There you go.
You need to watch some Dad's Army.
Yeah.
You need to watch some Keeping Up Appearances. You need to play some poker and tell me if you won or lost, and if you felt like it was a game of chance or if a game of skill.
Yeah.
You need to try and find some natural resources for the people of Scotland to utilize.
Yeah, and you also need to
enrich themselves.
You also need to write in with any problems that you want solving, because we're
your problems.
super good at solving problems.
And while
That's the
doing
mailbag
all
topic.
of that, you should put some anal beads.
We killed
Get the
it
beads
today
up the
in
bum.
the problem-solving
We
sphere.
fucking crushed
Yeah,
it.
we just
solved
crushed
it all.
You're right.
So if you have a problem, this is the new topic for the next mailbag. Please send in your problems. Don't make them all toilet involved.
No,
okay?
no.
And try to keep them broad.
But you can go for it. If there's some geopolitical issue that you think needs to be resolved and quickly, we'll probably be able to do it.
And you don't mind
just a quick chat and it's done.
But decisive answer, then come to us.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think we did it. We
Yep.
did a podcast.
We've done it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was
we,
great.
We
We did it.
accomplished that at least. Yeah.
We are doing stuff.
We're
Oh,
We
look
are
at us.
fucking
I can't stop doing
belters.
stuff. Just doing stuff all the time.
I'm doing stuff all day.
Man,
I'm actually doing things all
this
day.
guy's-
I'm
this
gonna
guy's
just
got a
stop.
busy
I'm
day.
not going to stop. Watch
Look
this.
at this guy
I'm
in
gonna
his
go do
big busy
something
day.
else.
The big
at me.
Go do
boy's
something
putting
else.
his big boy pants on. He's got a big busy day that he's got to.
I'm going to go do something else as well. All right. Bye, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Love you.